Give me a little intro there, Gomer.
There's no turning back now.
Let's put on the show.
You're listening to the Station 71 podcast. My name is Mario, and this week I'm joined by my co-hosts,
Beth?
And Brian.
So this week we're going to be talking about some of the Streetmosphere and live entertainment options at Walt Disney World. We're going to skip the news for the next couple weeks because there will more than likely not be too much of that happening with everything going on in the world. Feels so weird to just kind of like go straight for the topic. We haven't done this in so long.
It's only so many times you can beat a dead horse, though.
Well, it feels weird because this is something that we used to do like very early on, so it feels like we're back at like the early Station 71 episodes. And I guess with that, I'm probably going to cut this later. But Beth, to answer your question, we probably could include like most live entertainment because we have an hour to fill.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I guess we could just see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll just roll with it and see what happens. So I thought it would be a good idea to approach this topic from the point of view that we're just going to go through an overview of what's there now, and then maybe talk about some former shows that were in the parks and some stuff that maybe people didn't get a chance to see that we liked. So I think this will be a fun topic to talk about because I know we all love Streetmosphere. So do we want to start with Magic Kingdom or do we want to shake this up a little bit? Start with maybe some of the lesser ones. I feel like Magic Kingdom
shake it up.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I feel like Magic Kingdom is a little bit loaded with Streetmosphere, so we can come back to that at the end. Let's start with the one with the least and talk about Animal Kingdom. So as of right now, apparently the only kind of like Streetmosphere live performance stuff is the Viva Gaia Street Band, which is the street band that plays outside of Pizza Safari, I believe, right? It's in that area.
I think so.
I feel like I've seen this,
I
but like looking at the pictures
last time I was at the parks, but I can't remember exactly where I was standing.
It looks like it's the stage where the Jungle Book dance party used to be.
Maybe. Yeah, I think so. I think that sounds right.
And you know what I just realized? So the way I did this list, I'm going to bounce very quickly off of these guys because I don't feel like I've seen them enough to talk about them. The way I did this list was I pulled up Disney's website and I went there and I looked at everything that they had listed as entertainment options and I wrote it down in this show notes sheet. I didn't put any of the Pandora stuff in here. So does that mean the Pandora drummers are gone? Because that'll make me pretty sad.
I'm pretty sure that at least the like guy in the mech suit is gone, but I'm not sure about the drummers. I never got to see that guy, unfortunately. It looked pretty cool.
It was interesting. I did see him actually, but I remember him being cut with the last round of entertainment cuts. I just don't remember the drummers being in there. Now I kind of gotta Google that and see. Okay, no, they're still on Disney's website. They just didn't come up with my search results.
Okay,
so I guess we can talk a little bit about them since they're still around. You guys have seen them, right?
I feel like I've seen them in like a passing setting, but I've never actually like stopped and paid attention.
Yeah, same.
I like the way that this is built in, and the reason I want to specifically call them out is because this show feels very built into the land. Like it's not, as we talk about some of the other Streetmospheres, you'll notice that a lot of them are like either have their own stages or are like wheeled out into the area that they're entertaining at. And the Pandora drummers are kind of just like built in because those drums can't really go anywhere. But it's really cool that they've specifically designed this stage area that's also kind of like a mini resting area with the intent for having this show happen here. And it is really cool to just kind of pass by and see. I don't think that this is one that's like a must watch for me, but it's definitely something that like you can walk by it, you can see it, and then you can be like, that was pretty cool. I saw that. That was good.
Yeah, it adds, a nice atmospheric element.
Yeah. I think in the contrast, the mech suit guy that was there was a little too much because it blocked a good chunk of that area, and it was like pretty bad. Like it was right out front of Pangu Pangu. So it's like if you wanted to go there, you really didn't have a chance to because he was in the way.
Well,
but yeah,
I guess I'm kind of glad now because I wouldn't have wanted him blocking Pangu Pangu from me.
The show is interesting, but it definitely didn't have like the legs that some of these other shows have, where like you can see it lasting a while. It was more like this is a way to draw a crowd to this one specific area. It kind of felt like. So I guess that's it for Animal Kingdom. Unless we want to do all live entertainment, then we could talk about Festival of the Lion King for like a solid 20 minutes.
Are we waiting till the end to talk about ones that are no longer there?
Oh, if you have one you want to talk about that's no longer there, by all means.
Well, would you consider Divine in this category?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So is she officially gone?
I believe so.
She wasn't listed on Disney's website, and I know that when we were talking about the closures with the live entertainment a couple weeks ago, she was one of the ones that like we speculated was gone because someone told us that maybe she was.
I knew it was rumored, but I wasn't sure if she was actually taken out.
I
wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. But I can't find anything that says that she's officially gone. The problem with Divine, and I mean this in the best way possible, is that if she like actually officially left, there's no way to tell.
Right?
Because like
you can't find her. That's funny.
For anyone that doesn't know who Divine is or was, she was a Streetmosphere character that her biggest draw was that she blended in with the scenery and no one really actually knew that she was there, which was such a cool thing to stumble upon.
It really was. And I mean, I love the whole costume design. It was so cool and innovative. I really hope she gets brought back.
So
if she isn't back on.
I apparently did not know this and just learned due to a website called WDW Fan Zone. They posted an article September 18th, 2013 called Meet Divine and Bamboo in Disney's Animal Kingdom. Apparently Divine had a male counterpart.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so things we're learning today. I'm going to send you a picture because it's kind of actually funny. I like Divine's style a little bit better than this one.
Yeah, for sure.
I would highly agree with that.
But still pretty cool. I loved the concept of this. Here's the full-size one if you need to blow it up because that one came in kind of tiny. But I love the concept of having characters that you would never even really know that they were there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just so neat to like occasionally stumble upon Divine and then like see her walking around guests who had no idea.
Right.
So let's see. We can go to Hollywood Studios next. There's a lot of former ones in this category. But the first one that we have that still is listed as active is the Citizens of Hollywood, which
I love them. I can confirm that they were at least active on my last trip because I saw them. So I hope that they're not going anywhere anytime soon. They're funny.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this is like the staple of Streetmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for
like,
sure.
Between this and Citizens of Main Street, like that's what I think of every time I think about like Streetmosphere performers and all that.
Right. It's
and
like
they just fit in so well with the whole theming.
It's what Streetmosphere should be, really. Like they're always so in character and they add so much to the atmosphere.
There is a really good article that I found online. I was going to throw a lot of this in the show notes, but I feel like it's a little more than what we can get into tonight on this episode. But there's a article that I'll throw it in our chat too, so we can link it in the show notes. It's called "The History of Streetmosphere," which apparently Streetmosphere is the name of what everyone called Citizens of Hollywood prior to a couple of years ago, I guess. And apparently their origins are from like an actual street theater company. And cool. Yeah, so when they brought them over to Hollywood Studios, they were testing them against Universal's like street performance art, and what they found was that Universal was paying for the rights of characters, and people were just walking by them because it was like, okay, well, like that person is literally just a person that's in makeup to look like this character, versus like there's a performance going on around them. So what they did was this theater company was brought in, and they tested this idea that like we can use our made up characters that aren't like actual characters, and that'll draw a crowd around. It's really cool to read, and there's some like interesting stories in there, but it's very in depth.
Nice.
That's cool.
So any comments on Citizens of Hollywood?
Oh, I just absolutely love watching them. I feel like every time I see them, it's something different. Like it's never the same thing.
Absolutely, yeah. And their shows are so funny too. Like it's just fun to even stumble up in the middle of their performance. I feel like the nice thing about them too is that you don't have to see the whole thing to get the experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the whole point of doing Streetmosphere instead of like a live show.
Yeah,
is that you can literally just everybody in the park's running around not on the same schedule, so to be able to just kind of stumble across a performance like that, it's perfect.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it makes your trip more unique when you find stuff that you didn't intend to see.
And more memorable too, because you can go home and be like, remember that thing that I saw? And then everybody's gonna be like, I don't remember seeing that at Disney.
Yeah, I haven't seen them do this except for one time, but they did one skit and then they threw up like into the air a bunch of fake paper money, and it was just fake dollar bills with like Mickey Mouse all over them. And I was like, that's like, what a cute little souvenir. Like I grabbed a couple and like stashed them in my pocket, but I've only ever seen them do that the one time.
Huh. That's actually really cool.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen them do that either, but that's exactly the point that I was trying to make, where it's like, you could say, I saw that, and people are going to be like, no, you didn't, because I don't remember seeing that at all. The other Streetmosphere I have on here is the Green Army Men Corps, because I think that's just like a fantastic addition of Streetmosphere, and it's modern. I remember seeing them when I was there and I was waiting in line for Slinky Dog. We were walking through the Fast Pass queue, and they were in one of the lines, like where you could see them from the standby queue, and they were playing their drums for the people that were in line, which was like, that's great, because that is a big draw still, and people are still waiting forever in line.
Yeah, definitely. They're really cool. I remember seeing them as far back as like before Toy Story Land, in that little courtyard where the Incredibles thing happens now.
I do remember that, but I don't
know if it's.
I don't remember them seeing or I don't remember them playing their drums, but I don't think so. Very wrong about that.
I don't remember ever hearing them play drums, but I remember them interacting with people in the in that little courtyard. I love their costume design, like the big plastic pieces on the feet and stuff, like real army men. So cool.
I would love to see more of this stuff too, because it's the perfect like fit of Disney IP with like just street performance that you can stumble upon, where it's like not necessarily you have to plan your day around it, but like, oh cool, I remember the one time I saw the Green Army Men and they were playing in the middle of the street. Like that's a neat thing to add, and I think it adds a lot more to the guest experience.
Yeah. Plus it's like really cool that it's I don't know, adding to the experience without smacking you over the head with the fact that it's a thing, you know? Especially in Toy Story Land, it fits very well because the whole point is that you're the size of a toy.
So before we move out of Hollywood Studios, I want to talk about a show that's no longer there. Do you guys remember Mulch, Sweat, and Shears?
I never saw them.
Really?
But I've heard good things.
I feel like that was one that a lot of people were really upset about leaving. But for those that don't know, Mulch, Sweat, and Shears were like the groundskeepers of Hollywood Studios. But they were an 80s rock band as well. So they would pull up with like their gardening equipment, and then they would come off of the back of like a trailer on a pickup truck, and their drums would be there, and they would already be like set up, and they would come out and they do an audience interactive show where they would have people like play along with inflatable instruments and stuff. And there was a lot of like fun jokes and puns. Definitely something to check out if you're interested in any of the former Streetmosphere. I think this is probably one of my favorites.
Yeah, that sounds like fun.
Mm-hmm. It was so it was great getting the audience involved so much.
And that's the big thing I think that a lot of Streetmosphere needs to have to make it successful is like audience interaction. And Mulch, Sweat, and Shears did that really well because it was like you would stumble upon them playing, and then they would kind of pull you in, and you would feel like you had to stay and watch because you were getting like a full performance. And it was like 80s classic rock stuff. So you knew the songs, everyone kind of knew what was playing, which I guess fits for Hollywood Studios, but feels a little weird to say like in a Disney park. But it was a cool little show, and it was neat to stumble upon, but you definitely were caught in by what was happening as it was happening. So which park do you guys want to hit next? Magic Kingdom or Epcot?
Let's go Epcot because they just lost several recently.
Rest in peace.
Yeah.
So the first one that I have on the list of current ones is the Jammers, which I feel like
so
everyone
good.
needs to know about the Jammers.
Oh man, we last time we went to Epcot stumbled upon them, and man, it is such a good show. And again, kind of like Mulch, Sweat, and Shears does great with getting the audience involved.
I feel like they're such a staple of live entertainment. I've said that twice now, actually, but the Jammers are like one of my earliest memories of Epcot.
Yeah,
I feel like they've been there forever.
Unfortunately, I've only ever kind of caught them in passing. I need to like make an effort.
So let's see. Next one on here that we have that didn't get cut is the Jewel Dragon Acrobats.
They're really cool.
Yeah.
As sad as I was to see other things go, I am glad that at least they're still, well, obviously not currently with the parks being closed, but that they didn't get cut yet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I am always amazed at their feats of acrobatics.
Yeah,
like they stress me out a little bit, honestly.
I agree with that.
You kind of feel like you need to like sit down and chill out a minute after you watch the show.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and like definitely not to take care of or like take away from any of the other Streetmosphere performers because they're all insanely talented. But like these guys, it almost seems like out of place to have this level of talent just like kind of randomly in a theme park.
Yeah.
Just, like I don't know how to, it's like crazy stunts that seem extremely dangerous. And it's just like, you're really just grabbing people that happen to be walking by to see it,
Mm-hmm.
That's such a cool performance. And I would be really upset if they left too. I think one of the best things about World Showcase, especially since I'm going to say this, and this is going to sound horrible, especially since this is the part of the park where it's not attraction heavy. I think it really needs the Streetmosphere, and it needs the interactive elements to keep people engaged, because other than that, like, World Showcase kind of becomes, at this point, a lot of food stands, places to get a drink, and shops.
Yeah, very much.
Which I mean that in like the best way possible, because like they need these things to keep that sense of like, oh, this is what this is for, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I don't know if y'all are kind of like this, but I find myself that if I'm going through World Showcase, because you're right, there are very few attractions that, and because I've been so many times that, like, if I don't end up catching Streetmosphere or something like that, I find myself moving through the country too quickly. And like, I love when I catch something like this that really like forces me to slow down a little bit and kind of like stop and appreciate stuff more.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, this is like the perfect opportunity also, not only like you said, to get stopped and take a break, but to intentionally like go grab a drink and like a small plate and just stand there and watch while you eat or drink it. Like, I don't know, it's a nice experience to combine the two.
Yeah, it kind of feeds into the other, which is really great. And I was thinking about this earlier this week too, when, you know, I was thinking about all the stuff that they cut while I was prepping for this. And it's so bizarre to think about like World Showcase without live entertainment. And I kind of hope that that's not the direction we're headed, because maybe they'll start replacing some of this stuff and maybe we'll get some new things. I'm hopeful. I don't think that that's likely, but if World Showcase doesn't have these kind of little things, then like, I hate to say it, but what's the point?
Right.
Yeah.
It's just like, there's only, I feel like, so much eating, drinking, and shopping you can do without the, I don't know, World Showcase starts to feel soulless, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And with the way that Epcot is right now, it's kind of weird to think about that too, because like, there's not really any attractions in Epcot besides the handful that there are still around.
Mm-hmm.
Epcot's in such a flux. I'm interested to see what happens on the other side of this. But another Epcot World Showcase live entertainment option that's still around is Mariachi Cobre, which is the mariachi band that performs in the Mexico Pavilion. They do two shows, right? Because they're still doing the Coco show.
They are not doing the Coco show anymore.
Not, okay.
Which I'm really sad. I tried literally no less than 3 times to see it, and I could just never get there in time, because if I recall correctly, they only did the Coco show at the first part of the day until like 1:30 or 2 o'clock, and then they did the regular show for the rest of the day. And me being the late sleeper that I am, I could never get there in time.
It was such a missed opportunity, because that happened to us when we were there last year. We were really trying to see the Coco show, and even the times that they advertised for it, it wasn't always the Coco show. It was like they would put the one time that we went, we purposely stopped and waited where they were going to be, and they ended up being like 5 minutes late for their time, and it was just the Mariachi Cobre show. And Andy and I both were like, okay, well, we waited for nothing. Now let's just leave, because we've seen this before. And I know everyone's kind of, you know, they hate the whole concept of IP and Epcot, but I think that that's a good use of it. Like, that was a really good way that they tied it all in. And it was like, you know, we both just said we specifically tried to see the show. It was just impossible to do so.
Speaking of Coco and tying in IPs, this is very off topic, but have you guys done the thing inside the Mexico Pavilion where you like make your own character from Coco? Do you know what I'm talking about? It is the most bizarre thing. I think it was supposed to be a lot cooler than it actually is, but I don't think, maybe it wasn't working right the times that I've tried it, or maybe it's just, I don't know, a big failure. But you basically like become, like, you stand there and you put your magic band up to the thing, and then you just, I don't know, it's kind of like a pick and choose your hat and your eyes and your mouth and your shirt that you're wearing. and then it gets sent to your My Disney Experience app as if it were a photo pass. And I feel like it's supposed to be like you could interact with, like it has a camera that it was supposed to like mimic your motions, but it didn't actually do that for me. I'm going to see if I can find one of the ones that got sent to my account so I can show you guys what I'm talking about. I was just hoping that one of you had a similar experience so that I would know that I wasn't the only one it didn't work for.
Was that the window thing that's in the Mexico Pavilion? Like if you're walking in, you go around the wall in the front and it's to your left, and they had like the big the ofrenda and it had Coco around it. Was that where it was?
It's like it's like beside that kind of. It's if you're going to walk into like the, I don't know, Plaza Center area, like going down the platform, like right before you go through that archway to go into that area. There's like one on either side of the doorway.
I just remember seeing all of that Coco stuff and I was like, oh, that's weird. Like it's
yeah, it's like the displays were fine. The displays were cool. A lot of it was already there, like just having to do with Mexican culture, and then they added the Coco stuff. I was just really thrown off by the weird customized thing I was talking about. I'm gonna find a picture. I hope that it's still on my account.
I really hope it is too, because now I'm curious. While we wait for that, we can talk about Sergio, because he's still listed on Disney's website, but I'm pretty sure we got confirmation that he's gone.
I was about to say, he gave a pretty tearful Facebook post.
Yeah. I was thinking about that. Maybe it meant like he was done for the time being, but he's still listed on Disney's website, which is why I was like, maybe that's the case. I want to believe. I don't think so. I think he's done. But Sergio,
I found it.
Oh no.
It's so stupid. And see, it's just like staring into the abyss, you know? Like, I feel like it was supposed to do something else, but I tried it multiple times, and that's all I could get.
It just made a Coco character. That's it.
Yeah, I have another one. Literally, I tried it, like I said, multiple times.
They just like stare into your soul.
Yeah, pretty much. So I don't know if anyone out there listening has done this successfully and it does actually do something else. Please send a photo. I would love to see what it's supposed to do.
You should print that out and frame it.
It's my trip to Epcot.
Oh my goodness. This reminds me of, and this is a very like 90s thing to say. Do you guys remember when like cereal boxes would have the game codes in them?
Vaguely. I think I know what you're talking about.
This is what that feels like, is those characters from those games where you would like go online and you would put in a code and it would bring up a game on your computer. I feel like I just like totally dated myself and lost everyone here.
I feel like this sounds familiar, but I can't remember exactly what it is. Like what you're talking about.
It's very off Disney topic, so we're gonna move away from it. We'll talk about it later. So Sergio, is the mime clown in Italy. I don't even know how to explain his performance because he did juggling. He did a lot of things, and we determined that he is one person, which makes that all the more impressive.
Dude, he's amazing. He's like so entertaining, and he does this like every day of the week, multiple times a day. Maybe it's like quintuplets or something, but it is literally every single time been the exact same guy for me, and anyway. And like I mentioned previously, I've also seen him perform at the boardwalk. So when he's not doing 10 shows a day at Epcot, he's also doing it on other parts of property. Or at least he was until Disney. I'm mad about it.
Yeah. And this was like, you could tell just by watching this show that he loved his work. And that's one of the best things about seeing people
into it.
Yeah, that's like one of the best things about seeing people in like these Streetmosphere performer roles is like when you can feel that they love what they do. I don't think I've ever seen like a bad performance by him either.
Mm-mm.
No.
Have you guys ever gotten picked like to interact with?
Nope.
Oh my gosh, I have before. I think Laz has as well, but it was so much fun because he would do the thing where he gives you the little soccer ball and then he like, try and shoot it into the net or whatever. And then he would purposefully move it so you like slightly so you'd miss it like 3 times in a row. And then he would give it to a little kid and the little kid, he would make sure it went in and then he'd like look at you like, wow, you suck. It's so fun.
Yeah. I really hope that he is not gone, but I do really love Sergio.
Mm-hmm.
So an act that we do not think is gone because we didn't hear anything about is the French acrobats, or I'm not even gonna try to pronounce that. So the French acrobats.
Is it one guy, right?
I think so. It's the guy, and he bounces himself on chairs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he has the other guy out there with him, though, right? Kind of.
Well, I think he's like watching out for him, though, isn't he? He doesn't actually climb up on the chairs.
He's a spotter.
Yeah, he's like there to catch him if he falls, which I've never seen. So good for him.
Dude's got a nice job then.
Yeah, just stand there and watch. Yeah, he's really cool. I hate the bottleneck that this creates, though.
Oh yeah,
that's my only complaint.
That's the weird thing about a lot of these is that they're like, some of them are perfectly placed. I think Sergio's is in a really good spot because
it's like tucked back enough to where people are still able to walk past.
Right, and the way that the Italy pavilion is shaped, it's like there's enough room that you can go back into it. I don't think they really have that option because of the fountain, but it just feels like this is one that they don't have a good spot to throw a live entertainment option in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So another option of kind of Streetmosphere is the Rose and Crown pianist. I don't know who threw that one in here.
I did.
I will gladly.
She's awesome. And this is also the same, another case of the same person every single time. She, like, I know it is such a rarity these days to find a spot to sit down in Rose and Crown, but I have successfully done it before and just, got some fries and some chips. Sat down and just like ate my chips and like watched her and listened to her play, and she's super entertaining and fun, and I feel like very easily overlooked. So I just wanted to throw her in there and say, next time anyone's planning on going to Rose and Crown, to try and hit it up when she's there because she's fun.
Yeah. The big complaint I have about this one is kind of the same complaint that I had about the last one. It feels like every time I've been in Rose and Crown to grab a drink or anything, there's nowhere for me to sit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely a rarity.
Which is a shame, because otherwise, like, I would really like to sit down and watch her. And I felt that way every time I walked in there. It's like, oh, there's, she's here playing the piano. I'm going to sit down and find a place to just watch or listen. And I end up like standing at the bar, and it gets really crowded in there really quickly.
Yeah. I feel like, I don't know what the solution is there, but Rose and Crown is like always like back to back packed with people.
Isn't that kind of the vibe that they're going for in Rose and Crown?
Guess.
I swear, yeah, it's like a part of the theming there is how crowded it is every single time.
Well, they're going for that whole like English pub thing, and I guess that's kind of like the stereotype for that.
I mean, I've been in there with an actual British person before, and he said that it was very authentic, so I guess they're doing it right.
So that moves us into some of the now extinct Streetmosphere live performance stuff, and this is where I had a lot of fun looking up some of this stuff. So first one I have on here is Off Kilter, which was the Celtic rock band in between the UK and Canada. Do you guys remember them?
Oh, yeah.
Because they apparently had a very big following. I remember them distinctly. I just do not remember their following being as big as it is, apparently. But they were in Epcot from their inception in 97 all the way to 2014. If you've walked by this space in that time, you very likely saw them or heard them because they were very loud and lots of fun to watch.
I mean, this almost borders on, in my opinion, on not even being Streetmosphere. Like, they had their own stage set up and everything, right?
Yeah, so that's where I kind of wanted to talk about them a little bit, because they definitely border on not being Streetmosphere because of that stage. And I think that's where like the distinct line for me comes in. But a lot of people would argue that they definitely were. However, that stage was eventually reused after they were, I guess, technically like kicked out of their home or left Disney by the Paul Bunyan Lumberjack show, which I really hope that you guys remember this, because this feels like such a fever dream to me.
I do not remember this, so
oh my gosh.
It.
Okay, so
was that the one where they were like they were like running on barrels or something?
I probably, because the Paul Bunyan Lumberjack show was the Lumberjack show that replaced Off Kilter, and what they ended up doing was it was a lumberjack competition. The show featured things like axe throwing and chainsaw competitions of sorts, and log chopping competitions, touring plans. If you have the chance, I want to link this in the show notes too, because their article on the Canadian Lumberjacks, as they called it, is very interesting, and they have a lot of thoughts. Like the first one is that axe throwing should not start off the show. It takes too long and there isn't enough action. There's a reason why darts hasn't caught on as a spectator sport. And there's also something on here about how the host of the show is obviously not Canadian. But it's interesting, and I went back and watched a video of it, because I tried to watch a video of a lot of these just so I could like either refresh my memory of them, or like if I didn't see them, have something to say about them. But this one, just like watching it, it feels so bizarre, especially like because I have a distinct memory of like what Off Kilter was, and I remember them very strongly. To see that this is what replaced them was like a big ouch.
I love the touring tips at the bottom. It says, this show is expendable on every touring plan. Like, don't even bother.
That's the polite way of saying
right.
It. But fans of Off Kilter will be pleased to know that they are still around and are still playing shows, even though they're not in Epcot anymore, which I thought was pretty fun.
So where can we see them? Do you know? If
I
was just dying to go watch Off Kilter.
Let's see, I can pull up their website. They've released, the last time that they released an album was 2016, so I'm hoping that they're still like actually very active. But I remember that last time I saw anything, they were still like, you could buy their music and stuff online. And as the case is with a lot of these things that I'm finding out, apparently a lot of these performers do things outside of Disney that I would not have known unless I was looking it up.
Gotcha.
But it looks like they actually play a lot of shows in Florida. They had shows right now. It looks like they had their next show. Granted, hopefully it's not canceled. Is the Almond Beach Celtic Festival? Oh no, that says canceled. Maybe rescheduled.
I was about to say it. You said you hope it's not canceled. I'm like, I hope it was. Just because of everything that's going on. Don't give anybody a reason to go out and be around people.
It looks like so their next not canceled show is a Celtic Festival in Ohio. They have a show at the New Hampshire Highland Games, and they're playing in Celebration on October 10th. But then they tour Ireland for a month.
Wow, look at them.
So they're still doing things, which is really awesome.
Yeah, good for them.
Their website, if you want to find it, is offkilterrocks.com.
Nice.
So another show that we have to talk about is the Matsuriza Drummers. We have to talk about them because we were very upset to hear that they are leaving us.
Yeah. They're so, like, what an addition to not just the Japan Pavilion, but all of World Showcase. Like, I don't know. It's just, you could hear it everywhere, and it was so, I don't know, powerful for, at the risk of sounding cheesy.
No, I mean, you're right, though. I'm just curious what they're going to do with, like, that main tower with the drums. Like, it's just going to sit there now, I guess?
It's one of those things that it looks like it could just be not a vacant building, but it could just be like an empty space that they don't really use, because what else are they going to use it for?
Yeah.
Which is really sad, because as we've previously mentioned, those were like the drums heard around the World Showcase. But moving on to another live performer from the World Showcase. This is one I didn't know about, and I'm really upset I didn't know about. The World Showcase players were the Old Globe players. Did you guys know about them at all?
No.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so we're gonna go on a very fun adventure with this, because I did not know about this, and I'm very mad I didn't know about this. So they were a group of improv performers that used to perform in both Italy and the United Kingdom pavilions before they got downsized to just the United Kingdom. There were a small group of like 3 performers, and they would do like a single sketch per like performance, kind of like the Great Moments in History style thing, where they had multiple shows that they would do, but they would do one at a time. And it was one of those things where apparently a lot of people were such big fans of them that it wasn't common to just stumble upon them. Most of the time you knew that they were like happening, like they drew a really big crowd. Guests would also recognize them by the way that they started their show, which was that they would call all of the people into World Showcase by shouting free beer.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it was. So I watched a video of them because, like I said, I don't remember this thing being here. And one of the performers is like, he says to the audience, he's like, well, why don't we call everyone else that's in the World Showcase in? And he says, why don't you join us in our cheer? And at this point, it was like their last show, so they didn't even really have to say what it was. And as soon as they reeled back to shout it, everyone in the crowd yelled free beer. So
that's fun and interactive.
Yeah, and the way that it worked was they would tell stories, like, I guess, I don't really know the full gist of all of their stories, but they would tell them in a style that's very similar to Enchanted Tales with Belle, where they would get the audience involved. Like, there was the one that I watched, they had someone come up and they put a crown on him, and he was playing King George, I guess, in this one, or King whoever he was. And they said something about the king, and the crowd was supposed to respond, long live the king. And the guy that was playing the king would say, woohoo, that's me. And every time that they would do that, he would have to do that response to it. But things like that are like what make the World Showcase great. And I'm so mad I didn't know about this until we looked it up.
So
yeah, I'm kind of surprised I never heard.
What was that?
Do you know when it ended?
I have their last performance up. Give me 1 second. I can find it.
Sounds kind of like
2014.
Oh, wow. Dang. Yeah, I'm sad. This sounds kind of Yeehaw Bob-esque. You know, whenever
That's a good way to put it.
When he's like, how's my hair?
Yeah.
Everybody's looking good, Bob.
Looks great, Bob. There it is. That's the last performance one of the last performances that they had. But the weird thing about this is like I don't think I've seen their actual performance, but I vaguely remember seeing these people. But yeah, that's it. I would recommend that if anybody's curious about like what good Streetmosphere is, to go look at this, because this is a prime example of good Streetmosphere. And I have to give a shout out because I did ask in our Discord today. I mentioned that we were going to be talking about live performances, and someone said the Monty Python style show that used to be in the UK. And I had to dig to find this because like I had nothing else to go on because I didn't remember it. But I eventually found it, and I watched every performance that I could of this because I was just like, this is it. This is live entertainment right here for Disney World.
I feel like I walked by this once, and I really wish I had stopped. It looks vaguely familiar.
It's interesting. But let's move on to Magic Kingdom and talk about some stuff that's still there, because this is one that's got a lot of stuff still there. First one that we have on here is the Casey's Corner Pianist, which everyone should know at this point.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk about somebody that enjoys their job? This guy is like the happiest person I think I've ever seen before.
Yeah. And he's always playing so many different things, like so many different Disney songs. He's having a blast. You can have a blast just by walking by him, and it fits perfectly with the land. This is another like perfect live entertainment option. Disney, don't take this away.
Oh, please don't.
I would go as far as to say that if they took him off of Main Street, like that one corner where Casey's is, I think that would take a lot away from that one section.
Oh,
yeah,
definitely agree with that.
So the next thing that we have, keeping with Main Street, is the Citizens of Main Street, which they've already started to downsize a lot of. So one of the cool things that I think about Citizens of Main Street that kind of stands out a little bit different than the Citizens of Hollywood is that Citizens of Hollywood is like an improv group, and you can kind of tell from that. But Citizens of Main Street also feels very much like this is who they're supposed to be versus like they're being someone that's being someone else, if that makes any sense at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I like that there's each character is a specific person. Like each person that plays that character is specific to that character. Like there's not 3 of the firefighter. There's not 3 of this person to kind of break the magic a little bit. It's all that one person, which is also kind of sad because then when some of them go, you don't have that character anymore.
Yeah, true.
Does anybody remember when like pin trading was in its heyday? How what was his name? Scoop Sanderson, the reporter of Main Street, was like the big pin trader on Main Street. Or my oh wow, I'm going down this rabbit hole too. So there was let me see if I can find a picture of him because that'll make it a lot easier. So he was the character was the Main Street reporter, and he wore like this like straw hat, and he had very like specific and rare pins for like when you would trade with him.
Oh man.
That's awesome.
That's so cool.
He was super cool and was a really nice guy. Like I remember actually just like having a conversation with him the one time that we were there, and it was really cool and kind of like really sad when they didn't renew his contract. But he always had like the other fun thing about him too was he always had like kind of, I don't want to say like old timey toys, but like he always had stuff specifically for the kids. Like I remember the one time I saw him walking through the Emporium with a little girl, and they had one of those like the toys that's like the dog on the string that like pulls behind you. And they were playing with one of those. Like he was a person that was very into his character that he played.
That's so cool. I wish I had had the chance to interact with him.
Same.
That's what I mean, though. Like, it stinks because when they don't renew one person's contract, the entire experience is gone. Not that I think it would be the same if somebody else played the character, but it's like you almost lose out on that whole experience just because they don't renew one person's contract.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of Main Street characters, we have the Dapper Dans, which that's another Disney staple.
Oh yeah, I think
they're permanent.
Yeah.
There's no way they could take them away. Like,
there would be rioting.
Yeah, this has to be, in my opinion, like the most popular Streetmosphere group
for sure.
Yeah. Honestly, I cannot think of a time that I've walked into Magic Kingdom like early morning and not seen the Dapper Dans.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you're there for Halloween, the Cadaver Dans.
Yes.
Oh.
I love them too.
We also have Main Street Philharmonic because I think that's a staple too. They've kind of slimmed down on them a little bit, I think, but they can't do like the flag retreat stuff without them. They can't do a lot of that early morning stuff without them either.
I've actually never watched the flag retreat. I have seen the Philharmonic like marching around like in the hub area, but the flag retreat is one thing that I keep meaning to.
It's fun. I mean, especially if that's something you want to stop and watch, it's pretty much what you kind of expect it to be.
Yeah,
but
it's just like a thing I haven't done and want to do to mark off the old Disney bucket list.
Well, and it's a nice little addition that like they don't necessarily have to do, you know?
Well,
which
actually,
is what
I
makes
think
it kind of cool.
Do.
Well,
because
I'm
it's
sure
like a genuine American flag.
Oh, yeah, I guess that is true.
But I don't know. I could be wrong. I don't know what the laws about the flag are.
Well, they don't have to do it the way that they do it, I guess is the best way, because they do oftentimes like pick people in the parks to participate for that if they are like able to. But I think it's a cool little show.
Yeah.
Apparently they also perform in Storybook Circus. I don't think I've ever seen them there, but the Disney website says that they do. Which it kind of makes sense because their outfits match that area.
Yeah, for sure.
We've also got the Main Street Trolley Show.
That's always fun.
I feel like that was said with like a pinch of sarcasm.
Well, no, I mean, it is fun to, walk by it. It's not something I would, stop and stand at for a while.
This may be like a Disney guilty pleasure for me because I do really love the trolley show. And I love that it changes with the seasons. That's one of the coolest things about it.
Yeah, it is cute. Don't get me wrong.
I feel like, does that one need an explanation for people that haven't actually seen it? I don't really like. I feel like we know what that is, but is that like an understood?
Singers and dancers on the trolley, get off the trolley, dance a little bit, get back on the trolley.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty fair. So then the next two that we have on here, we kind of debated on if this was like Streetmosphere, but I think both of them technically qualify for it. First one that I put on here is the Rainy Day Cavalcade, which is the special parade that they have on in Magic Kingdom
people,
when it rains. Yeah.
Because they don't get to see Festival of Fantasy.
I do think it's kind of fun though.
Yeah.
It's nice that they have that as like a backup option.
I agree. I've never seen it in person, but it is a nice offering to, like I said, appease people so they don't get mad that they didn't get to see the parade.
So the cool thing about this is that the costume performers, the actual like people in the parade, not the characters, all wear raincoats for the most part, and a lot of the characters that are on floats would drive down in the Main Street vehicles. So they make use of those a little bit more, which is neat. They do some of the floats. Like I'm pretty sure the princesses still come out on one of the like gazebo style floats.
Yeah, I think
it's not
that's
like full-fledged
the finale.
thing. Yeah. But it's cute. It's a nice little like, oh, well, the parade's not going to happen, but here's this kind of addition.
Yeah. It's like if this was my like once in a lifetime trip, I would maybe be a little disappointed. But as someone who has been and seen Festival of Fantasy a bunch and never having seen this, it's like a thing that I actually have as a goal. And in fact, last time I was at Magic Kingdom, it had been raining and I was like hoping for it, and then it didn't. So I was like, okay. So you're kind of lucky if you see it. It's more rare than Festival of Fantasy, that's for sure.
That's very true. And then the last one we have on here is the Move It, Shake It, Mouse Can Dance It.
I love it. I'm sorry. I'm not ashamed.
I think we need to hash this one out here because I'm very concerned about the fact that you love it.
I really didn't expect to or even really want to, but that song is so catchy and it just puts you in such a good mood, especially like I've had it happen several times where I had just gotten into the park and I'm like walking down Main Street as it starts. And so I'm just like bopping to the beat, like singing along, walking to my destination, and the you know, parade-ish, whatever you want to call it, the floats are just kind of following along with me. And you get to see some kind of rare-ish characters, like Max Goof is there. When do you ever see that guy?
Yeah.
But I think it's really fun. And
I do not like this parade.
I'm obsessed with the song. I think that's the main thing.
My biggest issue, actually, since Brian said he doesn't like it, what do you not like about it?
I want to follow that question up with another question. What is the theme of this parade? The theme of this parade is parade. It's like
okay, I'll give you that.
It's like a parade for parade's sake, and I think that's what I hate so much about it. Is it always feels like it's just in the way when I'm in the park. It's not like they're celebrating anything. It's not themed after anything. It's literally just like we are doing a parade.
Technically, the parade is only to get the characters to the hub so they can have a dance party. So I don't think that you should put a whole lot of stock into the parade aspect of it as much as
think of it as a transportation.
Think of it as a like it's your hype man. It's getting you excited for the rest of the day.
Oh my goodness.
That's how I feel about it.
Wow.
My biggest complaint with this is just how much real estate it takes up and how in the way it can be.
It's always in the way.
It's always in the way. But like I feel like the few times I've caught it, I've been trying to go somewhere and it's in the middle of the hub and you just can't get through it.
Sounds like you should have planned better and been on the right side of the street.
Oh, whatever.
I swear, it's like they analyze my fast passes, and when they see that I have not taken one yet, that it's about to run out, it's like, oh, crank it up.
Crank it up.
Shake it out here to get in the way.
We'll move it, shake it out. Quick, go.
You ready to party, Brian?
I think I would also appreciate this a lot more if I had a kid. I feel like that's specifically who this is for, and it caters to the dance parties I hate so much.
That's true. And the one thing that I will say about this is that they try to be a lot more interactive than a lot of other parades are, which is good. They're getting the audience members involved, like dancing them, specifically like calling people out to start dancing and stuff. And that's good. But I just don't personally enjoy this.
And like I mentioned before we started recording, I do think it's worth noting that the hosts of this show are actually singing. Like that is them. That's not a recording. So I think that that's noteworthy.
That is, I didn't know that until you said that. And that does make me appreciate it a little bit more.
That's what I'm here for. Move it, shake it, mouse could dance at Appreciation Club.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to like it, but unless they move it out of the way and I don't see that happening, I'm not going to.
It's okay. I'll wave the flag for the people, the underdogs over here.
So let's talk about the extinct ones because I have 2 on here specifically. I'm going to save the best for last, but I want to talk a little bit about the Royal Majesty Makers, which I'm very surprised that Disney decided to cut this one. For those that don't know, this is the Sword in the Stone show behind or in front of Prince Charming's Regal Carousel and behind the castle. This started like as a show to actually get people to try to pull the sword out of the stone. And it was a neat little improv thing that they did every day. They also had the characters roaming in the streets if you didn't want to participate in the show. So they would talk to you about different things in Fantasyland. It was a fun little experience, but unfortunately, as most of these things do, it met the Disney live entertainment acts.
Womp womp.
Yeah. I always thought that was a fun one, and especially for the kids, giving them the option to pull the sword from the stone was a neat little thing. And then the last one that we have on here is Muppets Presents Great Moments in History, which is arguably one of the best live entertainment options that Disney has cut.
This one makes me so sad.
Yeah, this one was a punch to the face. Losing it.
It really was. This was I know we've said it before, this was the best representation of the Muppets that they could have outside of Muppet Vision. And it was just perfect for Streetmosphere. My only complaint was the bottleneck that it made right in Liberty Square. Put it anywhere else and it would have been great.
It was forgivable though.
I don't even feel like that walkway was used very much. And it certainly wasn't worth losing the show over.
I agree with that. I
Brian
think that
is a great moments with the Muppet stand.
I think before they shut it down, honestly, before they even opened it, that section didn't get much foot traffic. It was just that people saw that as an entranceway. They saw people there, and it just made it worse.
Yeah, you're probably right, but this show was so good, and is honestly it being a bottleneck is the only reason I can think they got rid of it. Because I feel like the cost was already there. They already had the characters and the animatronics made and everything. I just don't really get why they got rid of it.
Yeah.
Wait, so were they animatronics?
No, they were actual
puppets,
puppeteer
right?
performers.
Okay.
Oh, are you serious?
That's what I thought.
So fun fact that I recently learned about them is that they were puppets, and they were also 3 times the size of the actual Muppet puppets because they needed to be so you could see them from the ground.
Right.
Wow. I did not know that.
Yeah, I was about to say, when you said animatronics, I was like, really? I thought they were puppets.
Well, then maybe that explains. And I honestly, I thought it was kind of low level animatronics. And but if they actually had people in there doing the show each time, I can understand that's a lot more cost to that.
Plus, they had to pay that guy that did the hear ye thing.
Oh
yeah. I don't know if this is a thing that anybody can talk about, but if anybody actually knows anyone that did this show or worked on this, I would very much be interested in talking to them. Please send them our way.
Yes.
But that is all of the entertainment options I had on this list of live entertainment Disney options. I did get some feedback from some people in our Discord about some of their favorite Streetmospheres. quickly before we wrap this up with like final thoughts. Brone O'Giant said, having met and talked to and joked around with my Push friend on my CP, he'll always have a special place in my heart. I very much miss Push.
We didn't even talk about him.
We didn't.
What was the other one's name?
I Can.
Yeah.
Which was arguably way worse than Push.
Way worse. Push was such a creative name.
Push was also cute too. Like that.
You know what else? Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just gonna say that the thing that I loved about Push was that he was just like, even though he was a trash can, he was so cute and charismatic and like fun. But I Can just felt like a recycling robot, and that's not cute.
Anyway, I never honestly saw either of them, which is a huge bummer. But I know that Push has a very large underground following, or has. I don't know.
I'm sure he still does.
But the thing I was going to say is the thing they used to do at Epcot with the Bunsen and Beaker.
Muppets Mobile Lab.
Yeah, that was really cool.
That was really cool.
That was a bummer when that went away as well. And
all of the living character initiatives like Lucky the Dinosaur.
I would have loved to have seen that. I think that was a little before my regular Disney trip time.
Yeah, I also think that was before my time.
But yeah, I really wish that they would incorporate more stuff like that, because that adds so much to the experience. Like, I was actually just talking to a friend earlier today who went on her very first Disney trip as like a 30-ish year old a few months ago, and how she had planned so much and didn't get to do it all, but they got everything that they really wanted to do done because they were determined to just enjoy the experience. And I was like, yes, because like the experience, like being there and just the atmosphere of the parks is like 80% of the Disney experience, in my opinion. And things like that add so much to that experience. I feel like if they keep whittling away at the Streetmosphere, it's just going to become a sidewalk, and that's really depressing.
That's very true.
So hopefully that's not what it comes to. Sorry that I made this take a dark turn towards the end.
Well, before we bounce off of living character stuff, can we briefly talk about how Luxor Jr. and Remy were both living characters that were like very short-lived?
What?
Wait, you don't know about that? Do you know about that, Brian? Oh my gosh. Okay. So we have to talk about this a little bit. So Luxor Jr. was in Pixar Place, and he would bounce along the tops of the roofs. He wasn't like an actual like meet and greet kind of thing. It was just like a little tiny thing that you could see every now and then. And then Remy was I can't remember where he was. He was in Chefs de France, I think. And he would come around to tables, and he would actually, let me see, I can get pictures of them. He would like come around with a waiter, and he would be like a little mini thing. He was, sized appropriately too. So
that sounds awesome.
That's so cool.
Whoop, that's not where I want to send that. There's Remy.
That is it's so cute.
I love that.
Wait, here, I have a YouTube video of Remy. You can probably watch this without sound because he doesn't talk, but you can actually see like how he moves and everything too. The living character things were so cool.
And they just like got him under like one of those plate covers, so you don't even know that it's gonna happen until it happens.
That is so cool. Man, yeah, I would have loved to have seen that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then let me find the Luxor Jr.
While you're looking for that, I also want to give a shout out to one that I definitely consider to be Streetmosphere because they are like very anti meet and greet, which is the Stormtroopers in Galaxy's Edge. I think that's a really fun interaction and they have so many interactions that they can have, which is really cool. And they like I said, they actively don't try to take pictures with you or pose with you and stuff like that. So I think that definitely qualifies as Streetmosphere, and really appreciate all the hard work and Stormtroopers out there bringing that magic.
Yeah. The one thing I will say, and I don't know if this has changed lately, with Galaxy's Edge opening, are they like only staying in Galaxy's Edge now?
I think so. Now that they don't have the little show where they come out.
The March of the First Order is no longer around, so I think they are exclusively in Galaxy's Edge.
This is the only thing that I didn't really like was like the Stormtroopers walking around the rest of the park, which seemed kind of, out of theming. But yeah, having them in Galaxy's Edge is really great, and they do a really good job.
Which feeds very nicely into our next listener feedback thing we have here from DMG 550. He said the coolest thing from our last trip was my 1-year-old son being stopped and interrogated by Stormtroopers in Galaxy's Edge. The whole land is amazing, but having them and Rey walk around definitely added a whole nother level of realism to it.
Because they're intimidating, like for real. They don't play. Yeah. I don't know if you guys have ever done the Kylo Ren meet and greet, but he is also extremely intimidating.
Like, I've heard that.
I love that they aren't, messing with the authenticity of the characters in that aspect.
I'll have to check it out. I haven't seen him.
I haven't met him, but every time I've seen or heard of anybody meeting him, he's been very much like into his meet and greet. We also had Taco Bell Mel said the Monty Python style show they used to have in the UK. Push was also great, which led me down that rabbit hole of looking for these performers, which I have to thank you for because that was a ton of fun to watch. And then Lissa Baby said, my favorite has always been the people of, let me reread that. My favorite has always been the people of Hollywood. The characters are so interactive. Even when you're on a mission to get to the next ride, you can't help but stop and watch them.
And I think that's just such a good, summary of what Streetmosphere should be, because a lot of going to Disney parks is hustle and bustle, getting from one place to another, and a lot of times people just focus on doing all the rides, and to have the Streetmosphere there for you to pause for a moment and just enjoy all the other stuff that's there in the park is what makes it so great.
Yeah, I think if Disney needs to look at this again and reevaluate what Streetmosphere is, that's it. And it adds another level of crowd control, because you have people that are like she said, you're stopping on your way to a ride and you see them and it's just a fun interaction. That's exactly what they need to do. And I think it helps out, a lot more than they probably give it credit for.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I don't really have anything else to say unless you guys want to throw anything out there before we wrap this week up.
Disney, we love Streetmospheres. Give us more instead of taking it away.
Yes. Then that's going to do it for us this week. Thanks for joining us again on another episode of the Station 71 podcast. If you like what you heard, be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast from. If you want to hear us talk about any topic of your choosing, shoot us an email at station71podcast@gmail.com, where we'll answer it and then hopefully talk about the topic of your choosing on an episode. If you want to get in touch with us, you can find links to all of our social media as well as full show notes at station71podcast.com. We hope you enjoyed your ride, and we'll see you real soon.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.